Biden's administration wouldn't have expected their demands on EV vehicles to fall back on such a huge margin. And there's a valid reason for this. Car makers have decided to fight back this time and plan to end EV production, bringing back everyone's favorite gas cars. Of course, the Biden government and other political leaders won't exactly be accepting this news easily, since they've done everything to thoroughly impose on us EV vehicles, aka green energy vehicles. But are these vehicles green as the government claims? What happened to the EV euphoria that was here a few years ago? And why did car makers suddenly turn on their optimistic EV vision? Let's find out. 2023 was a good year for EV sales in the US, with more than 1.2 million sold. This was 50% more than the sales and adoption in 2022. But what about now? Well, demand for EVs is almost non-existent as it is now. And even the automakers nor the Biden administration would never have expected the downhill trajectory of the EV hype. And car makers are finally starting to see the light, along with their consumer base who have tried to forewarn them before now. Car manufacturers are finally kicking against Biden's impositions and are shutting down assembly lines. The US president had imposed a load of EV mandates on top automakers like General Motors and Ford. When people didn't seem to see the big idea behind his EV mandate, he introduced a $7,500 tax credit, making them believe that it wasn't such a bad deal. 2 years after this, the truth about EVs is finally coming to light, and the reality of its adoption no longer seems feasible. And that is the cost and practicality of managing these EVs. While car makers all hopped on board these expectations from Biden's authority, things don't seem to be going as planned currently. They have finally started understanding how much consumers' opinions matter in situations like this. Automakers from Ford Motors, Mercedes-Benz, General Motors, and others are scaling back on their EV production. Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, predicted a growth decline in the market in late January. To put into context, Tesla is the leading car maker in the US, estimated to have accounted for 55% of all EV sales in the US in 2023. Ford's EV unit COO, Marin Jaja, said that while the growth of EVs in 2021 and 2022 was commendable, its growth in recent times is not nearly at the rate that they thought it would be. A better alternative to Biden's mandates would be a mixed offering of vehicles, gas-powered, hybrid, and fully electric options. The all-electric future would still be achievable, but at a slower pace than expected. This would not hit Biden's hopes of making the car market completely green through EVs in 2032. He had imposed on top car makers to prioritize the production and sales of electric cars, and that by 2032, there would be 7 out of 10 new EVs in the market. Now this was mostly acted out due to the European government's strong moves to eliminate CO2 in the environment through green cars by 2035. But the truth remains that EVs are not only overly costly and unreliable, they are also not fit for the environment. Car makers have experienced its negative effects too in terms of low sales. Ford, for example, recorded a loss of $4 billion on EVs. To recover their losses to some extent, they resorted to relieving several of their workers from their jobs, shutting down some factories, cut production of its electric Mustang Mach-E. They recently halved production of their F-150 Lightning and delayed a $12 billion investment in battery factories and other EV initiatives. However, they have assured their customer base of putting efforts into producing more hybrids preferably, bridging the gap to the thorough EV market, and will only match its production to the demand for vehicles. As it is, EVs aren't exactly the first choice for users, and here are some of the reasons why a typical driver will choose a gas-powered vehicle over an EV anytime, any day. First off, EVs pollute the environment, and they're not as green as the EV loyalists claim it to be. True, they don't have obvious pollutants like the exhaust pipes, but the brakes and tires are the main culprits. The EV tires, for example, wear out 40% faster than gas-powered vehicles' tires due to their massive weight, and this is because of their huge batteries. Now, here's the downside. Our bridges, parking spaces, and roads weren't built for weight such as this on vehicles. A parking lot in New York had collapsed thanks to the massive weight of an EV vehicle on it. Also, these kinds of vehicles driving on the road mean that once an auto crash occurs, the effects of the accident on both the EV vehicle and occupants in the EV could be disastrous. With such weight, it is only normal for it to pose a safety risk on the highway. Now you've got to be extra careful when riding that thing. You don't want to endanger your life and that of others because you're trying to maintain a green environment. Now, EVs aren't exactly promoting a green environment, as you must have guessed. Since these vehicles are so heavy, they are bound to wear out quite faster than the typical vehicle. These constant repairs on EVs are indirectly contributing to more emissions to the environment. Its main component of production is lithium, which is imported from China. And its production is mostly in China. So where does the energy used to power EVs come from? You guessed it right. Coal, our reliable friend. So this means charging these EVs even contributes more to the contaminants in the environment that we're trying to get rid of. The minerals involved in making EVs what they are aren't exactly mined in the best conditions. Most times, it's child labor in harsh conditions just for the sake of the continued feeding of capitalism. The sale of EVs hasn't completely ceased. It's just that the accelerating sales we saw in the first 2 years now seem far stretched. A new technology had just been revealed, and everyone was excited. The hype was energetic, and that was all there was to it. And it's easy to understand customers' worries. There will be a lot more questions to be asked and concerns from them, because the usage of EVs will all be new to them. You can't say the same for a gas-powered vehicle. On the other hand, EVs are quite expensive, as well as interest rates, so this has mostly fueled the cost of these vehicles. Even with government incentives, EVs are still expensive for people to purchase. Other than price, some people are also skeptical about its infrastructure. EV battery ranges do not help matters and can even lose up to 40% of their charge in cold weather. The unreliability of charging stations is also a factor, as the few ones available are either overcrowded or malfunctioning. An alternative is charging your EV at home. However, installing them alone can take up to $2,000, and insurance is considerably expensive too. True, you may be able to save up on fuel costs and low maintenance costs, though if you're stuck with a heavier EV, replacement of tires might be a problem for you. Price is not the only factor in choosing an EV, or not though, as users can opt for a second-hand model, but owning an EV has to fit the lifestyle of the buyer. Else, it might just be an added burden to one's daily routine. The potential buyer should know that short trips are the best for EVs, having their chargers nearby, which translates to living in the city. Charging EVs also takes a longer time compared to charging a gas-powered vehicle at a gas station. The risk of EV fires through its lithium-ion batteries is also a safety risk for users. Once these kinds of batteries overheat, they are more likely to explode once met with a rough impact, such as grazing the car's underbody. A repair shop, for example, wouldn't want to deal with such a risk. There are a lot of repair needs, especially when it comes to EV batteries, and not everyone out there feels especially comfortable with fixing batteries. Asking the public to 100% commit to EVs when it isn't 100% functional is going to be a difficult task. The customers are unsatisfied with the batteries. They're unsatisfied with the production process. They're unsatisfied with the range. Come on, nobody wants to purchase a $100,000 pickup truck that can't go up to 200 miles when they can opt for a reliable gas-powered pickup truck. These are the issues that we have to tackle first before imposing EVs on customers. It's going to be a long ride, and the government will slow down at its current pace. Not until there are solutions to offer to the current EVs in the market, and the consumers are given a choice. Then the friction between electric vehicles and gas-powered vehicles go on for a long time. What's your opinion about EVs? Do you think they're more environmentally friendly compared to our typical vehicles?